Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have roll call, please?
Alderman Kruger.
Here.
Alderman Zielinski. Alderman Grady.
Here.
Alderman Benner. Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Taylor. Alderman Sevenik.
Here.
Alderman Collier.
Here.
The first item on the agenda this evening is public comments on any matter of concern to the city. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak this evening, you could step up to the microphone and state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes to speak to the council at that point.
Hi. I'm Bill Banty, and this is my wife, Joy Cha. We're business owners here in Menasha. We own Lemon Loves Lime. We wanted to speak on the plans for the bridges. Both my wife and I looked at both recommendations here and the options that were considered, and we both feel that alternative B is, in our opinion, the best route to go with, because we're new business owners. We've been here for a couple of years, and we've seen the struggles that the business owners face here, and we feel that the revitalization effort that's been going on in downtown Main Street is just starting to take root. And I don't think that the other plan will be able to sustain business here on Main Street with the other plan, and with the fact that there are roundabouts on both sides of the bridges. I don't feel that that was a favorable option to go with. Did you want to say something, Joy?
I agree with him.
That's a good wife. You'll never hear that again. No.
Hi, my name is Sandy Pufall, and I live on Nicolay Boulevard at 740 Nicolay in Menasha. And I also own a business downtown called La Belle Maison. It's my husband, Brian. And we also wanted to talk about the bridge reconstruction. We are a relatively new business downtown. I've been down there about 14 months, and we have worked really hard to get our downtown going, and I'm really afraid of the bridge, the roundabout project shutting us off from the public, and I'm afraid that we're going to lose a lot of what we've worked really hard at. So I guess I would recommend Plan B for the downtown and also for us as a Menasha citizen. And I'm hoping my husband agrees with me.
Yeah, what she said.
Thank you.
Jody Zahner, I am a business owner at 216 Main Street. I also is relatively new, and going through and understanding the two options. We've worked very hard, just like the rest of the people ahead of me. So Plan B, I believe, is in the best interest of moving forward.
Tim Jacobson, 732 Paris Street, Menasha. I'm here actually to voice my opinion, just the opposite of what you've heard. For one, the construction is until 2020, from what I understand is, and where the roundabouts are going, there's no parking there now anyways. So they're going to have the same problems that every business has when there's construction going on in the neighborhood. The one thing that bothers me is, once again, I think we're being a little short-sighted. The magnitude of this project is not about us, not about the businesses that are here today or the people that are here today. That bridge is being built for 75 years from now. If we put the same footprint there today, what you see there 50 and 75 years from now is what you will see then. Nothing will change in this community again. Nothing will grow in this community again. We have to be able to look in the future and imagine that footprint exposing more property for more businesses. Imagine that post office being down and some other larger business, tax-paying business, being on that footprint. All of that corridor going through there, this bridge is going to affect all of that. But if we do nothing but put the same thing there today, 75 years from now, 50 years from now, our future generations of city taxpayers will have the same problem then that you're dealing with today. Now, I've heard all the controversy, the debate about everything about that bridge. Doc Larson's building might go, and he'll be off the tax levy. If Doc Larson leaves that property and one life is saved by how many times that guardrail is hit on the north side of that bridge, Doc Larson would be happy to do that, I'm sure. I've heard about the pillars being in good shape, not a scratch on them. Concrete fails from the inside out, not the outside in. Just like your pavement doesn't fail from the top down. It comes from the base up. And what you see on the surface is the combination of things going on underneath. $7 million they're going to have put into it. That's a lot of money. That's going to go fast when they start playing with that iron and all the hydraulics and the electronics and everything, the modernization of that operations. That $7 million isn't going to go anywhere. So I just want you to, especially my aldermen, think twice about your decision tonight. You either stymie this city and keep it in, I don't know if any of you ever saw Pleasantville, the movie. Keep it in black and white, no color. Reach out, change this community. That's what this project's all about. It's not about us today. This bridge project is about the future of this community and what it can be like for the next generation and who's going to sit up there and use their imagination and grow through that corridor. Not for us sitting here today, but it's our responsibility to give them a chance in the future to make it even better for our community, the whole community. And it's up to you tonight. And I hope you change your mind. If you don't, I don't know. But that's all I have to say. But this bridge is not for us. It's for our children and our grandchildren, and a chance for them to make even bolder decisions when it's their time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening?
I'm Greg Curtis. I'm representing the Wreath Factory at 226 Main Street, and we oppose the new bridge. We do prefer Plan B, I believe it's called. 20 years now, a new bridge would be great, but for 20 years, there's going to be a lot of new technology, new ideas, and at that time, maybe something better will come through, but right now, Plan B is the best. Thank you.
Tim Lenth and Becky Motter, 204 Main Street, representing. We also live in the city of Menasha. We're also in favor of Plan B for this. I heard the other gentleman speaking of the future, and we're looking at ups and downs in the city of Menasha. Right now it's on an upscale, upward momentum because of the downtown being built back up. If this bridge goes in as Plan J, they put the roundabouts in, the difference in parking may not matter now, but what he was referring to with expanding and possibly tearing down the post office, that would be all well and good, but you're also decreasing the amount of income for the city by about $14,000 from what I have understood from tearing down Dr. Larson's place. And I don't know of anybody that's actually lost their life on that bridge in the past, so I don't see it happening in the future. There's some things I think you could do with the bridge as far as making the lanes different, bringing the traffic flow in and out. I think there's options to that. And with B, it saves money now. And I don't know where the other speaker was planning to get the money for the annual upkeep compared to what the annual upkeep's going to be on Plan B. So that's, I guess, if you're decreasing the tax roll by over 14,000 plus, and on the other side of the bridge as well, you're losing a lot of tax dollars, and I don't know where that tax revenue is going to come from to pay for the more expensive new bridge versus the Plan B, which basically just builds up what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening?
Hello, Dan Zielinski, 647 Paris Street. I was a former alderman up here when we voted on these plans, and I was one that brought up to their attention or requested the information on the ongoing cost on this. And almost every alderman up here was very surprised on the annual cost of owning a bridge, and that's not including breakdowns on this bridge and everything else that could possibly go wrong with this bridge. And I told them I will vote for that plan that they wanted with all the bells and whistles if we never have to own this bridge. If the vote came now and I was still sitting there, I would be voting against it because we cannot afford the ongoing cost of what could possibly happen here. Maybe nothing will happen, but I look at a brand new bridge over in Green Bay, the Ray Nitschke Bridge, and talk to relatives that live there. This thing is broke quite numerous times and it's costing the city a lot of money. We should never own a bridge. There was always an ongoing joke that you should never buy a bridge or swampland. And now we're going to buy a bridge. We might say that we're not buying a bridge, but we're adding enhancements to this bridge so we can own it someday. And that's buying the bridge. So the way I feel that we should never own this bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zielinski. Is there anyone else? Mr. Taylor, you'll have your opportunity to speak. You'll have your opportunity to speak at the meeting.
This is a public hearing, and James Taylor, 340 Broad Street.
Mr. Taylor,
Mayor,
you're out of
all I'm
order.
saying is that we had a wonderful event this week in the city, and I can't speak about that on the floor tonight. And I would like to say that Sunsplash was a great event for the city, and the people behind me worked on it all winter long with a gentleman named Pete, and it was a wonderful event for our downtown this weekend with all the businesses' hard work. Thank you.
Seeing no one else this evening, we'll move on to the report of department head, staff, and consultants. The first item is the landmarks contest. Each year we have a contest kind of showcasing our historic buildings throughout the downtown during Preservation Month, and the chair of our Landmarks Commission, Tom Grady, is here this evening to talk about that. Yes, if you could just grab the microphone, please.
I'm Tom Grady, Chairman of the Landmarks Committee, one of my other committee members.
I'm Dean Whitehaven.
We have a gift package. As the mayor said, each month of May is Architectural Awareness Month for the state of Wisconsin. So we run this contest. We've been doing this annually now for, 4 years. The last couple of years, we have added to the prize packet of just by completing the form, you get an ice cream from Lemon Loves Lime. So it's an incentive to get out there and work on this with your family members. It's a great little project. It brings awareness to the buildings that are left in downtown Menasha with their architectural elements. And this year's winner, you want to step forward? Dave Wisniewski, you received a gift bag with elements from the Daily Grind, Parker Johns, Renewed and Reclaimed, The Weather Vane, and Jitters threw something in there too for you.
How can I complain?
Also, part of the Architectural Awareness Month for the state of Wisconsin, we also give a plaque to one of the buildings, and this year, Club Liquor got our recommendation, and they are receiving a probably sometime late summer. So, thank you. This is for the Historical Society newsletter. Then we're done.
And 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I'm trying to get out.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Congratulations and thanks for participating. It's really enjoyable to see all the people that have worked on this so hard all this year and up and down Main Street all the month of May. So thanks again for participating. Okay. Item 2 is the minutes to receive and the communications to receive. Do we have a motion? Alderman Severnick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like for us to receive minutes A through D and communications E through G.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Zelensky?
Thank you. I know Alderman Taylor brought this forward during the last meeting on communication G about the Community Development Code Enforcement Active Summary. And looking through that, I wish there could have been more information on there, but I hope that something comes forward to us that what entails in the future with having our new inspector come on board, to have something changed with how they're going to start working together to, I guess, see more violations. I only see 73 code violations. That's like 12 a month. I know you're going through winter, but it's low. And I had a problem this weekend with code and health issues, and it's not working out right. So I would just like to see something come forward with the police department, community development, and health, that something come forward and we could, I don't know, get something going that we can fix more issues. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week at the meeting, I talked about the code enforcement too, and what I would like to see Director Buck is, especially with the code enforcement and with the no building inspector, that we need to have some paperwork that follows these projects, and to keep the alderman or the citizen in the loop, that there needs to be something generated that we can look back at this, follow up on that. And also, we get calls before things are cleaned up or whatever, so I think the party that's has a violation, and if there's an alderman involved, we need to be kept up on exactly where we are with that situation until it's cleaned up or resolved or to the court system. So certainly it's just better communication for all parties involved.
Okay. Yeah, well, feel free to give me a call and ask me about any of the complaints that come in. I'm likely not going to give you a list of violations and what violations they are and what status we're at, unless you want the position of managing the code enforcement unit. We do receive the complaints, we follow up on them.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, if in particular, if let's say in my district I make a call or I follow up on something, I would like to be kept in the loop with that, how that's playing through the code violation at that time.
Oh, sure. My door's always open. Come on.
Thanks.
Seeing no further discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I can't really see your light with the sun coming back through it, so wave at me if I miss you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just draw attention to item E, the tax increment District 13 for One Menasha Center. And Kevin Engelbert created a document here giving us the status of that. And I was really happy to see this. I thank you very much for this, because, of course, there are concerns with the investment that we're making in the community with downtown, and Kevin showing that TID 13 is performing very well with this, and I was really happy to see this. And also one other note, Kevin's, you're not going to be with us too much longer, are you? Kevin is leaving us to go on to school further, and I'm going to miss him. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On the consent agenda this evening, we have 8 items. The minutes to approve from the Common Council meeting of June 5th, Board of Public Works recommendations from June 5th, to remove alternative J and recommend alternative B as the preferred option for Racine Street Bridge. The street use application for Community Fest Parade of Lights on July 3rd. The street use application for the Bazaar After Dark on July 20th. The recommendation to award DOT relocation distribution feeder under the 441 project. The payment to Summers Construction for the new street construction, including asphalt trail and concrete sidewalk on Province Terrace in the amount of $97,852.93. The authorization to execute the intergovernmental agreement to satisfy eligibility for recycling consolidation grant for 2018, and the Plan Commission recommendations from June 6th for the certified survey map for Villa Way. Does anyone wish to have any of the items separated this evening? Alderman Nichols?
Item number 2.
Any other items? Alderman Sebenek? Oops.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing we're not holding any other ones, I move for minutes, council minutes. The Board of Public Works recommendations 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and the Planning Commission's recommendation 8.
There's a motion and a second. Could we have roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Do we have a motion for item 2 at this point? Alderman Taylor?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to remove alternate J as and recommend alternative B as the preferred option for the Racine Street Bridge, and the City of Menasha has no interest in ownership of the Racine Street Bridge.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to take this opportunity at the council level to express my thoughts about this issue. The Racine Street Bridge really is about Menasha's future. It's about the economic viability of our downtown, the surrounding neighborhoods, and the city as a whole. There are redevelopment opportunities that remain in our downtown that will come up in the future. There are redevelopment opportunities along the Annup Street corridor on the south side of the river. We need to be aware of those in this decision. This bridge represents millions of dollars coming into Menasha, and our tax dollars coming back, being invested in our community to replace a bridge that is functionally obsolete. It is 65 years old. Are we willing to risk all of that? Would the same opportunity be available in the future if we were to pass on it now? We also need to consider the impact on property values in the neighborhoods around the bridge and the downtown. What kind of community do we want to be? One stuck in the 20th century, or one thinking about the future? That is our job, to think about and create the future of Menasha. It's also really important to remember that even with a rehabilitation project, the bridge is still completely closed to traffic for 1 year. Why wouldn't we maximize that opportunity and get ourselves a new bridge? The construction is slated for 2020. maybe a little bit beyond that. That provides ample time, in my mind, for downtown businesses, for the city, for everyone who needs to prepare to prepare. So back in 2015, I supported the new bridge. I will continue to support it for those reasons. And I ask you all to do the same. Thank you.
Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor. I was absent at the last meeting and was unable to opine on this subject, and I did watch the Public Works meeting online to see what everybody said. There seemed to be, at that point in time, at least a huge concern of safety, which I'm not hearing that again tonight. But a bridge, or the bridge, the downtown has had development, and we just saw a memo about the great development that just happened downtown with the current bridge in place. There are plenty of opportunities over at the Gilbert site right now. In fact, putting in the new bridge would actually deter development over at the Gilbert site, because you would take out the Lawson Canal Bridge, which makes that smaller island, or that smaller section, almost impossible to get to. So the city would have to actually invest more money to build another bridge over that canal, just so someone has the opportunity to develop it over there. The bridge moving over 20 feet this way or 20 feet that way is not going to impact the city. It's not going to deter businesses from wanting to come down. It doesn't provide any more space for businesses downtown. We have a certain amount of space there is, as we have downtown right now. In fact, the bridge will be closed if it's rehabilitated, but Main Street will not be, because we will not be putting in a roundabout. And from what I'm hearing from the business owners is the concern that with a roundabout being installed, Main Street access is also going to be closed down, which is going to greatly impact their business. And yes, we have to determine what's best for the future of the city, but we also have to keep in mind what's good for the city right now. We can't afford $100,000 a year in maintenance costs on this. We barely have enough money right now to do some other things that we're going to have to be doing in it. We just spent $750,000 on a trail over on the Gilbert site, which half of that's going to be cut off from direct access by a new bridge also. I personally think that the past council did not fully think this through on how it was going to impact the city. And it's already been said that there's been not a single accident on the bridge itself in the 56 years that it's been in existence. I'm just, I don't want to own a bridge. I don't think the city needs to own a bridge. We did hear, and that is true in Green Bay, the bridge up there has cost the city a ton of money since they took it over. Unexpected closed downs and stuff like that. I haven't heard a single plan on where this money is going to come from besides raising taxes again, and that's not something I'm for, to raise taxes just so we can have a bridge to have a bike lane on it. We have wide sidewalks on there. 6 years ago, bikes could only go on one side of the bridge. We changed that so they can go on both sides of the bridge. We had a debate back then on the safety issues, and no one had an issue on safety on pedestrians, bikes, and traffic at that point in time either. I think it's foolish to do it, and I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Steve stole my issue on the Lawson Canal. I took him over there over the weekend. A lot of people don't realize that that little bridge that takes you over to the dam, in Plan J, it's proposed to tear that out. So we made this huge investment on the Gilbert site to potentially develop that property. The best piece of property could never be developed, because in order to get to it, you need a bridge to get to that little island. And in order to do that, we have to build a small bridge. Now, we just built one over by Jefferson Park, and that was almost $400,000. That little one that goes over, what is the name of the road? Right. But anyways, just trying to make my point that bridges are extremely expensive, even if they're only a car length. And the issue of safety, at our last meeting at the Board of Public Works, safety was the big issue. So I have the information here from DOT, the safety of that bridge. Let me congratulate the city of Menasha for having the safest bridge in the state of Wisconsin. What they tried to do up here was talk about the corridors outside, away from the bridge, where there were incidents. And let me tell you what those numbers are. I was actually surprised. I thought it was the other way around, but over by Annup Street, it's 0.73 crashes per million. And on the other end, by Main Street, it's 0.9 crashes. We're talking less than 1 per million vehicles going through. You have a better chance of getting hit by lightning going over that bridge than having an accident. And that's the way I look at it. I was in favor of the situation with the bikes on each side. People respect one another when there's people walking or biking, and I see it all the time on that bridge. If I've mentioned this before, I mean, if Mayor, you want a bike lane, one side could be for bikes, one side can be for pedestrians. This redevelopment issue, somehow if we don't build a new bridge, we won't get redevelopment, that's weird. I don't understand that. Actually, if anything, you're taking a piece of property that's on the water away to build a roundabout. So you're actually destroying development in our downtown and adding to the tax rolls. And the same with the Bonta site. I think really, my personal feeling is that the city wants the state to pay for taking down the Bonta building. And that's what this is really also all about. This future of Menasha? What? Yeah, this is the future of Menasha. Just because you build a new bridge doesn't mean that somehow we're not going to be in the future. We're talking about a new bridge. One way or another, this is going to become a new bridge. Quit pretending like it's going to be some 100-year-old piece of equipment that's not going to function. The state can't do that. However, though, I think people have to understand, the state can do whatever they want. If we say B tonight, they can say, no, we're going with J. But you know what? They own it, not the taxpayers. So that's less than $100,000 a year off the tax rolls that we don't have to add. And not only that, but we can continue to receive the taxes on the buildings that are there. So I want to address some of the things that Tim had talked about, because he makes very good points, but I guess it all depends on how you're looking at. Nothing will grow. I don't get that. Guardrails, well, I guess I already addressed the safety issue on that. Stymie business, I don't know. I think right now the city of Menasha is in the lifetime that I've been around, the downtown has never been in a better position than it's ever been. It's great. And to say that if we don't build this new bridge that we're going to stymie it, if anything, I think we're going to lose a lot of business downtown. So, and then grow through the corridors. If you add a bunch of roundabouts, you're not going to have any room to grow on. So, I mean, I just don't accept those points. So I spoke probably 20, 25 minutes last time. I'm sure a lot of people saw it. My main objection here is, why should the state own this bridge? We shouldn't. It's going to be a major expense for the people, future generations, and we shouldn't pass that on to them. This is a state bridge. Let the state own it and maintain it like they should.
Well, once again, we're going to play volleyball here. I'm for it. I'm only a resident of 3-4 years in Menasha. I worked here my whole life, so I know a lot about Menasha. I seen when it was full of bars, and that was income, but it didn't do too good because nothing grew, and there was no shops downtown. Downtown got pretty rough for a while. Then it started to shut down and clean up, and good people started buying businesses and putting in a refactory, the daily grind, everything's good. It's looking great. I believe the bridge will be the best thing that came here for the simple reason it's gonna make us a better bridge for 100 years. Safety, I don't know about safety. We can't beat the one we got the way it sounds. A million, well, right today, there's 15,000 cars going down Memorial every hour. So it don't take long to get a million. But there is accidents over there. I think the state's coming with number J, the way they talked in the hallway to me. And there's gonna be roundabouts. And I think that we'll expand on Racine Street and grow that way. I think it'll be an excellent thing. And the $100,000, you put it on your tax rolls, it comes out to X pennies. Pennies add up, I understand that, but you gotta look at developing the city and not letting it sit stagnant like many people did for many years. And then you do have the loop. Let's have something that builds and builds and grows. And it does cost money to make something nice. I'm all for it if I gotta jack the taxes for roads. Put some roads in this city so people wanna come, they want roads, they want a downtown. You gotta start doing something right. And there, now I said it, thank you.
Thank you. Well, Alderman Stevanik and Kruger basically said just about what I wanted to say. I had a constituent come up here tonight and speak, and I appreciate that. I wish more constituents would come up here to speak on this subject and multiple other ones, but I think he took one of the words out of my mouth, short-sighted. I think we are being short-sighted here. The old council was being short-sighted. There's going to be people my age that will stay here till, God willing, 100 years, and they're going to end up buying a new bridge. And we don't know what's coming along the line. There could be multiple things that come along the line that cost millions of dollars. I can't put this on the taxpayers' backs. When I was out campaigning, that's all I heard was tax dollars. We can't just keep adding. It's just $10 on a $100,000 house. Yeah, it's just $10. I'll if it goes through and we end up owning the bridge, I'll find a way to pay the extra $10. But some people can't afford that. And when it keeps adding on, just like all these business owners came up here tonight, it's more than $10 for them. Their building's assessed at a lot more than that. And they can't. It's hard enough to run a business right now in some economies, and we're on an upswing. We don't know what the future holds. Let's look at the future. We're going in an ice cream store, and we see the ice cream. We don't see how much it costs in the future, how much it costs right now. We're being like kids. I can't wait for you to look at some people, your other constituents, and say, yeah, I raised your taxes again for a reason we don't really need to, because it's not a safety issue, and this is not going to bottleneck development. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear that because we're not going to get a new bridge, we're not going to have any development. Since 1985, our city has had over $75 million of development downtown. We're all very proud of our city. And as Alderman Stevanik said, since as far as he can remember, at no other time was a downtown this vibrant with businesses. That's a pretty true statement. You'd have to go back to the 60s and early 70s maybe to hit that. If we put a new bridge in, it's going to chase away businesses. We're going to lose the beautiful waterfront of Dr. Larson's building. We're going to lose that beautiful grove of trees across from Club Tavern. And Menasha prides itself on their river. Last year we have a video out there, we adopted a plan. Your place on the water, Menasha. I don't want to change it to your place on the roundabout, Menasha. I don't think that doesn't sound very good. All it's going to do is sterilize our city. You can have these sea of concrete, you can have these roundabouts. Roundabouts are good. Out by the bridge out here, out past 9th Street. You can't have a better place for a roundabout. My district used to include Doty Island, and in the 20 years being up here, no one has ever said to me, you know, that Racine Street Bridge has got to go, you know. Yeah, does it open too much on the weekends when it's nice weather? Yeah, we've had complaints on that. But that's also a good thing. There's a lot of people visiting our downtown, in our downtown. Alderman Kruger said he hasn't heard anybody address the hundreds of thousands of dollars for maintenance fees. And I went to, in April, all the aldermen that were up for re-election, and most of them were running on about their platform was no new taxes. And I don't know where we would get this extra hundreds of thousands of dollars if we had problems with this bridge. Why do we feel so sorry for the state of Wisconsin? Every year they kick the can down the street at us. They take away our computer tax, which we used to get $100,000 for a year. They take that away. We have to make that up. The state, every year, the federal government kicks it to the state, and the state kicks it to us. And why should we take their bridge? This is the Department of Transportation. A small community like this does not have the shoulders for a bridge, a dam, or a lock system. They're just, the needs of those are too great and too big for us to take on that responsibility financially. There's nothing about a new bridge. It's concrete and steel. The one we have is concrete and steel. It's made for 100 years. It's built at railroad standards. They may have to upgrade a few things in it, but the state has not closed it. And if you look at every day on the news, the Department of Transportation is having tremendous problems with finances. The governor was just here a couple weeks ago, and he had a sign that said, 441, get her done. So they're trying to get some money to get that project done. But the state's in serious trouble. And we don't need, they can't handle the finances of these bridges and roads. Certainly we can't. Thank you.
I'll make mine a little shorter than some of this stuff, because this is a lot of stuff is repetition. The reason I ran for alderman is because the downtown's growing, things are developing, things are going well. Well, we just had 5 owners from the audience get up and say that they don't want this new bridge. They want version B. And the only reason, and I totally agree with them, I mean, the bridge needs to be fixed, and it's the mechanisms parts that needs to be fixed, not the whole bridge. And I think we can get by on alternative B. Thank you.
Alderman Collier?
You can.
It all comes down to numbers. You juggle numbers every year. They tell you you don't raise taxes. Your taxes are raised in some place. They're coming up somehow. You got to think about, you know, what's best down the road. You got to have roads, you got to have bridges. I want a new bridge. It's going to cost me some money. What, you go to the store, you buy a piece of bologna, it costs you X cents a pound. You got to pay what the price is. I don't like what's happening. I don't like the state that changed the rules so that we might get stuck or will get stuck with a bridge. But you know what? We need that bridge. We need that bridge to grow. If you don't understand that, that's simple math. We get something, you trade something, you barter. In the long run, we'll come out ahead on it. Thank you.
Thank you. As I understand it, the state has engineers for these bridges. How is if we do end up owning this bridge and have to work with it, there's ongoing engineering in the future, is our staff prepared for that sort of a thing? I guess it'd be a question for Radke.
I didn't know Mr. Radke was still here. Mr. Montour?
Yeah.
Current staff would not be able to do bridge inspections.
So that would be a hired out kind of thing?
Well, right now, the bridge inspection is done by Winnebago County for the city. So they do the inspections for us now.
And that would be ongoing with it, even?
That would be, I would think after the new director starts, I think he would continue that, yes.
Okay, And one more thing. We were talking about how if the state goes along with us and alternate B passes, you're going to put about $7 million to restructure the bridge. As one of the constituents said, that they're not just going to stop, they're not going to drop their welder. I think they'll finish the bridge either way if it does surpass $7 million. Just like if if we do stick with alternate J and they start building the bridge, they're not just going to stop halfway. Everything can go over budget, just like we see other things in the packet that go over budget. And we got to stick to our guns here and find a different option. Thank you.
Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have you heard anything from the DOT as far as if they were a position that they were taking, as far as if we give an opinion to them at this point at all or not? They're sticking with J, or?
They said they would have to reevaluate, but as they said during the meeting, they made their decision based upon our previous recommendation.
Yeah. Okay.
As well as best engineering practices.
Okay, thank you. I certainly respect everybody's opinion, and a lot of them are very valid. I get concerned sometimes with, everybody here has a vision, but I get concerned about having a myopic vision, and just being narrow and focused on what we have and not what our potential is. And one of the concerns that was brought up, the bridge is going to close for a year no matter what we do. And as far as the roundabouts go, what that does for access downtown. Mr. Mayor, do you know if, or maybe Tim Montour would answer this, that if they doing the bridge or not, or doing the roundabouts or not, are they going to block access off to Main Street at?
You can correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but the project goes from Broad Street, basically the southern portion of Broad Street, across past Nemeth Street. Is that the way you understood it?
Are you talking about alternate J or alternate B or both of them?
I think any of them, from what I understood it, was just south of Broad Street through that intersection.
It's my understanding that alternate J obviously would be from Broad Street all the way, or the south side of Broad Street to Nemeth Street. Alternate B, I believe, would be the same situation because they would have to reconstruct the intersections at the bridge, or at Main Street at least. Alternate B, and again, I wasn't involved in a lot of the, when all the alternates were presented, but my guess would be that the signals at Main and Racine would have to be redone. With that said, the design would have to be redone, and also the intersection would have to be closed. I don't believe that alternate B would allow the intersection to be open during the construction. I may be wrong on that, but if they're going to redo the geometry on the intersection, it would have to be closed.
Okay, that was kind of my suspicion, but I wasn't completely sure, so I appreciate your input. And also, you still don't ever lose access completely to downtown. They always do provide a level of access, and so I think that either way it gets blocked off either. And we had a comment that said that we've never had an accident on that bridge in 56 years. I'd like to ask the chief if that he would confirm that that's correct or not.
It's not even close to correct. The dates specifically, in just looking at the DOT's package that they put out, that we wrote reportable crashes on, were February 14th, June 4th, September 2nd, November 4th, November 19th, and December 14th. Those are all crashes that occurred on the bridge. We have had, and then there's also non-reportable crashes that occur on the bridge as well. The bridge has historically been in the top 10 locations in the city of Menasha for crashes. I'm not talking the corridor. There's some confusion about, we have talked about the Racine Street corridor in the past where we've done heavy enforcement. 25% of the crashes in the city of Menasha have occurred from the Racine Street Bridge all the way from Anup Street to 9th Street. That's what we have referred to as the Racine Street corridor. Historically, 25% of our crashes have occurred there. We have gotten that number down, plus with 441 construction, that number went down substantially last year because there was a less volume of traffic. Now, question is, have we had serious injury accidents or fatalities? I completely agree 100%. We have not had serious injury accidents. The majority of these crashes that were reportable ones on the Racine Street Bridge are usually in wet or slippery weather, where one vehicle ends up rear-ending another vehicle on the grates. The grates themselves are what tends to be the biggest issue. Tim Jacobson's also correct that we do tend to have vehicles that go into the guardrail, making the curve. Now, whether you want to call that the bridge or not, I would call that the approach to the bridge, but I guess you're splitting hairs. Going from Anup Street onto the Racine Street Bridge, one of these crashes was also one of those. That, I don't know, Tim, that guardrail is probably 2-3 times a year, depending on how slippery it is in the winter. So there have been those. I'm not saying you should do a new bridge or an old bridge or B or J or A or D. You're asking me about the crashes. I'm telling you, yes, we have inherently had some. And by the new construction of B, that might take care of it by the quick concrete or whatever they're talking about. The new design probably would help it as well. But there have been crashes historically there, and there will be crashes in the future. I mean, that's just inevitable. And it's one of our largest volume corridors. Racine Street, Washington Street, 114. You're going to have it just for the mere volume of vehicles that you have.
What about bike and pedestrian traffic? I know that citywide it's gone up dramatically. People are turning to bicycles more than as much as they can, and we're walking a lot more. And do you have any thoughts about the...
Now, you're right. Those won't show up in the DOT records because it's not a motor vehicle in transport unless they get hit by a car. Last year, when we looked at the numbers, there were 3 incidences of people either falling off the bridge, not falling off the bridge. That probably would have made a bit different news. Falling off the sidewalk, hitting their head, that type of thing. That gets documented slightly differently. I think there were 3 of those last year. Someone trying to get their bike up onto the sidewalk and taking a tumble, that kind of a thing. So we do have a couple of those every year as well.
Okay, thank you.
But no cars hitting people, just to clarify that point, because I know that's been brought up here as well. And council members that have said that are 100% correct. We have not had, fortunately, a vehicle versus pedestrian or bike that I'm aware of.
Except, unfortunately, we're trying to get bikes up on the sidewalk to feel safe about getting across a bridge as opposed to...
You're right, it's a double-edged sword. Because that curve is so high, which is by design, that can cause some issues for bikes to get on, if they're trying to do it not at the beginning or the end of the bridge.
Sure. Okay, thank you. All right, I think that was all the questions that I had, and I do want to thank all the folks that were in the gallery that spoke, and I really think that they're very, very well said, and especially I agree a lot with Tim Jacobson and what Alderman Nichols had to say, that their thoughts are pretty much spot on, and I certainly appreciated hearing them. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the chief is right. My information goes up only till 2013. So what happened after that, I don't have that information because DOT doesn't provide that information. But from what I've had, there have been no incidents, no injuries, no, basically if there was something, it's someone stopped, got hit, rear-ended. That happens throughout the city, but the incidents are very few and not to the level that people are preaching up here is my point. You're going to have that on any street, no matter what. So, but anyways, I wanted to address, someone asked about the access to the downtown. And one thing that I will tell you from my experience, I think the mayor can back me up on this, is DOT does an outstanding job when it comes to providing access and also signage and public hearings and meetings and communications. with whether it be the downtown or residents and everything, because they almost have to. But they, from my experience, I've never seen an organization do such a fine job. And so if there's a concern, they're going to keep that access open as much as possible for the downtown, you know. We do it with our own streets, you know, with our residents. We're not going to inconvenience them up into the very last second where we have no other option but we got to pave that road. So, but those other things I mentioned, DOT does a great job with communications, period, in general.
Seeing no other discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carries on roll call 5-3.
Moving on to action items. The first item is accounts payable and payroll for June 8th through 15th. Do we have a motion? Alderman Kruger?
I'll make the motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll for the term of 6/8/2017 through 6/15/2017 in the amount of $1,931,198.17.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Is there discussion? Alderman Sevenick?
Mayor, going through this, and I already contacted Jennifer about this, is that things didn't add up for me, and that well, I learned now that we didn't get all our pages. And part of the reason I caught that was when I looked at kits and files, accounts payable summary, it didn't add up and there wasn't a total. And then I realized we must be missing pages. So hopefully the rest of the council realizes that. But Jennifer informs me the numbers are still on our exact.
The entire packet was placed online. The clerk has copies if you'd like it. We are kind of scraping along with the photocopier on the second floor right now, and for whatever reason, it did not print some of those pages, and we're not quite sure why, and it wasn't noticed until Alderman Sevenick brought it to our attention. So that's what happened. Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm doing this on behalf of Alderman Grotti.
Uh-oh.
Check number 57871. We paid $1,076 for muskrat removal. Somebody have an explanation for that?
Steve Kruger can.
Is it at his house or what?
But if you give him access, he knows because he called it in.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Benner. I actually stopped down at City Hall and talked to Jennifer. What that is that there were 3 or 4 muskrats in these stormwater drainage ponds that were removed, and she informed me this is an action that's taken every single year. Me personally, I think, let the muskrats live, it's a drain, but apparently it's something that does happen every year, and it was for the, and it came out of the stormwater fee.
Seeing no other discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item 2 is the beverage operator's license applications. We do have applications for both the remaining portion of this year and the following year. If we could have a motion for both of them separately, please. Alderman Kruger?
I'll make the motion to approve the liquor license applications for the 2017-2018 licensing period. Liquor license application for Quick Mart Menasha Incorporated.
Hold on. So we're on the beverage operators this.
Oh, okay.
One right before.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. The beverage operator's license, I'll make the motion to approve the beverage operator's license applications for the 2017-2019 licensing period.
Is there a second? Second. So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
And then I was just saying, there's 3 that are still for the 15-17 period, if you could make that motion as well, please. Those first 3 at the top.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the beverage operator license for Alexandria Brill, Haley Sorensen, and Rebecca Wilson.
And if we could add for the 2015 through 2017.
And for the 2015 through 2017 licensing period.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
And then there is also one that is recommended for denial. If you look at the backside. And I don't know if Miss Stewart is here this evening. It appears that she is not. Alderman Kruger?
Well, am I on? Okay.
Yes, you are.
I'll make the motion to deny the operator's license of Thomas Konetsky.
Whoops.
Or, which one is it now? Emily Stewart. His name's on top of this, too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thomas.
Is there a second? There's a motion, a second, to deny the license for Emily Stewart. Seeing no discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay, item 3 is the liquor license applications for the 2017-18 licensing period. Clerk Aliazi, would you like to talk about the 2 that are remaining?
The first one for Quick Mark Menasha, doing business as Quick Mark Menasha, 1515 Appleton Road. Everything is current, all financial obligations to the city are current, and all the inspections have been completed, and they are compliant. The second one for Rebecca Mader, doing business as your daily grind, 204 Main Street. All financial obligations are current, and the inspections have all been completed.
So we'd recommend approval of both at this time. Alderman Kruger?
Thank you, Mayor. I will make the recommendation to approve the liquor license applications for the 2017-2018 licensing periods for liquor license application for Quick Mart Menasha Incorporated, doing business as Quick Mart Menasha, Santam Grill, Agent 1515 on Appleton Road, and also the liquor license application for Rebecca Mader, doing business as Your Daily Grind at 204 Main Street.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Item 4 is an amendment to a development agreement with Valley Road Multi-Storage. Do we have a motion? Alderman Kruger?
Actually, Mayor, I will have to recuse myself from this vote because I do business with this agency.
Okay. Alderman Benner?
I'm sorry. Kind of lost where I was here for a second. Oh.
Item 4.
What?
4.
Sorry about that. Yep. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the development agreement for Valley Road Multi-Storage at 867 Valley Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion, a second. Is Mr. Taylor recusing himself as well? Okay. Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to discuss this a little bit because, again, this is some action taken by the past council. And I'm not completely happy about this. We enter into a development agreement before we even sell the property. It seems like we're doing things backwards again here. We take a site, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, the state does. We work with the state, we clean the site, and the best thing we can do is put storage units in. That's an insult to the city of Menasha. And we entered into a development agreement already. We haven't even sold the property yet, and we're having agreements with an organization, and I read the minutes of the Planning Commission. Mayor, I agree with you about the landscaping. It's really short. It's not there. We have 10 feet from the road. Let me explain what 10 feet is. It's 2 sidewalks. And then their response was, well, we can't do anything about that. You know what you do? You knock out some storage units. But I'm not happy with this. This is our development in Menasha. We have a nice piece of property that we just cleaned up that we could use for other purposes. I sat in several hours of a meeting with negotiations with the village and ourselves. And the city took a position that we want to maintain our corridors and we want to save those industrial properties up ahead because they're going to be important for redevelopment in this community. And what do we put in? Storage units. What kind of a tax base does that bring into our community? I'm not happy about this at all. Had I been on that past council, I would not have agreed to this. What kind of tax dollars comes in? You have metal buildings. That's it. You don't, the potential that we're losing here, what could go there, is very short-sighted. I will go along with this. I'm not happy about it. I think the city could do better. But because you've entered into an agreement already, I don't want to jeopardize the city in any kind of legal action. But I think that the foresight is awful here, especially when we finally get an opportunity to clean a site and make it viable for industry and jobs. And we put storage units up. That whole corridor is nothing but becoming storage units. That's not economic development to me. I addressed it.
Alderman Collier?
I applaud the people that tried to get that and got that working. You couldn't sell a septic tank to somebody. You had to clean it up, you're correct. I got to vote for it because, like you said, other people looked at it, they said it's a good deal, and you said you'd go with it because you don't want to hurt their integrity. Well, the people voted for Jay, and you're changing your mind here, but I'm here to say, not to scold you on that, but what I wanted to talk about is I don't think you should have said something about Fox Valley, because that was privy. Thanks.
Alderman Zelensky?
Thank you. Yeah, I remember this one that came forward about almost a year ago now. I did struggle with voting this at the time, but we are getting a clean site out of it, and storage units do come down pretty easy, as they did when they're putting this new bridge in. If development comes, I think it's still can happen there in the future, but what are the tax dollars that will come from this?
Mr. Engelberg?
What we're looking at is an estimated value of anywhere from 1.2 to 1.5 million. They were able to fit on an 8th building where the original development agreement called for 7, so I think that will probably be more towards the 1.5 mark. Whereas when we acquired the property, it was about $175,000 for comparison's sake. I would like to say something about the site. The site is still contaminated, and it has soil contamination present, and that precludes some land uses, and those land uses are the ones where people use the site actively. The storage units, I agree from an economic development standpoint, whereas they don't bring a lot of jobs. You know, they take a lot of space. I understand all that. However, for this type of site, it is almost a perfect fit for the conditions in the soil because it presents a large asphalt cap and a ventilation system that goes right over the contaminated area. Now, to talk a little further, when the original agreement with WOW Logistics disappeared and WOW had backed out of the deal, we had looked around for different types of developers as a condition of the grant from the state. And the only ones that we had interested were storage. And this developer has been with us on this project for almost 2 years now and has done everything correct. And so I would encourage you to support and vote affirmatively for this.
Thank you. And I think Menasha failed itself years ago with this building to let it go in the dismay that it came. I don't think it's any council to blame. There's other entities that we're to blame for that, but it's good that it's getting semi-cleaned up and we'll have some tax dollars coming in greater now. Thank you.
Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Kevin for giving a little more history on that. I was going to ask you or David to bring us up to speed because that was a blighted property. And it was going to be a warehouse off the original development agreement for a lot of the reasons that Kevin stated, or all the reasons Kevin stated. The other thing is that when they're reconstructing 441, we lost storage units. And if you're trying to decide where we're going to put a storage unit, there's very few places we really want to see them or don't mind having them. And to me, this is not a terrible location for that. As Kevin stated, it's almost ideal usage for the site as well. And this also gives people places to store their boats, their RVs, and a lot of those things where they can keep those things locally, and even just, extra cars, or whatever it is, so that they have places to store things. And just like having a water treatment plant or a wastewater treatment plant or a city garage or anything, a city is a city, and there's certain things that a city has to have in order to operate and function and be friendly to our citizens. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that you want to have, but we also have standards for exterior finishes and things like that, and these are going to be some decent looking storage units as far as they go compared to a lot of what you're used to seeing. We have masonry and decent siding and things like that. And there is landscaping, even though there were some struggles getting some of it in, as what was articulated. It is what it is, but it's still, I think, responsible development for the area, for the site, and for the city. And certainly I'm going to support this, especially since I was on the Plan Commission and the previous council. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kevin, someone touched on the setback. Could you help us with the setback a little bit? Just give us a brief.
Yeah, as far as the code requirements go for the I-2 General Industrial District, there's a 10-foot required setback, which they do meet, and there's an 8-foot required landscape buffer. So what they did is they took the 10 feet and put in landscaping throughout the 10 feet. It's a large site, so it doesn't appear like that's a lot of landscape given the depth of the site. But they do meet code standards as far as landscaping in the site.
So we didn't violate any of our setbacks?
Nope, they meet all the setbacks and code requirements for lighting, landscaping, design.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to the city of Menasha. You've done a great job, and it's. I always thought when David retires, you could move up to that position, and I hope that comes back sometime and you revisit us. You've been a great asset to the community.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Kevin, I also think you did a very good job helping to explain to me more about the site, especially the fact that it isn't completely cleaned up, which I was under the impression that it was. So that makes me feel a little more comfortable about this particular type of development. But even though someone did talk about, well, it was going to be just industrial warehousing, it still creates jobs, and the difference here, and that's why they clean these sites, is to be able to create economic development and to create jobs, and that's going to always be my position.
Seeing no further discussion. You're too fast.
Thank you.
Attorney Captain.
Just a few things I wanted to mention. In the current development agreement, if the city does nothing, what the current development agreement provides is that closing does not occur on or before June 1st, 2017. Developer has the option to terminate the agreement and its obligations hereunder. So as far as obviously, there was no transfer of the property on or before June 1st, so it's in the developer's hands about what to do. Otherwise, the city just keeps going on or waits till, you know, the developer decides whether or not he wants to proceed with a transfer or the purchase of the property, and maybe the VPLE certificate of completion occurs later. Obviously, the developer was not willing to do that, which is why you see this amendment, but I did want to point out that that provision is in there. And so if the city chooses to do nothing, well, then you know, it's in the developer's hands about what they want to do. As far as the amendment is concerned, I did want to point out the paragraph 4 is something that is not contained in the development agreement. It is a provision whereby the city is agreeing to indemnify and defend the developer. It would not have been in the agreement because the developer wasn't building on it until after the purchase of it. So it's not contained in the current development agreement, but I did want to point that out, that that is something that the developer has added, that the city agrees to indemnify and defend the developer from any claim or cause of action raised by any party, municipality, or governmental agency of any kind, and it's relating to the pre-existing contamination or condition located on the property. So it doesn't have anything to do with if the developer causes some kind of contamination, but if it's related to the pre-existing contamination, the city is taking this on. We do not have insurance that covers this. Of course, environmental insurance is a specialty insurance. Back in the 70s, I think, 60s, I think it was the early 70s is when they took them all out, and they are, you know, it's an added insurance coverage that you have to have for protection. So just so that you're aware of that.
But if we don't agree to it?
If you don't agree to it, well then, you know, it would be up to the developer to perhaps come up with some additional language, or maybe the language would be tightened in some aspect. I know I believe I was on a telephone call or in a meeting, now I forget which, but I did bring up this issue, and I mean, we know why the developer wants it. The developer did not cause the environmental condition, neither did the city. The discussion I had as well was, well, what if the developer does something wrong and, you know, exacerbates the environmental condition. So just so you know that unless caused by the exacerbation by the developer is not in there right now. On paragraph 5, let's see, I just had some notes here. We know that the property will not be free and clear of all encumbrances. I would recommend that language be deleted because there's likely going to be a requirement that there's always a cap and a cap is maintained. They're aware of that. And we do have some language in the developer's agreement with regard to the title insurance, what is going to be provided, kind of standard restrictions and covenants, etc. And so I think we should be sticking with that. Paragraph 8, I just wanted to mention that it appears that the way that it's written, appears that the city has some control over whether or not the property will be taxed, and that is not correct. It's the assessor. So I would just change it to say, if the property shall be deemed exempt until such time as developer acquires fee simple ownership of said property by warranty deed from the city as contemplated by this agreement, and then move on, provided the city is otherwise in compliance, then the developer will make a pilot payment. But so I would just delete parts of that beginning of that sentence because the Common Council doesn't determine whether a property is tax exempt or not, and the way that it's written. So that, to me, is just semantics and pretty simple to change. Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Does anyone wish to?
Do we need to amend that then, or what?
Attorney Captain?
If you would like paragraph 8 amended as I indicated, and 5, yes, you would need a motion for that. And I'm not sure what your pleasure is with regard to paragraph 4, the indemnity.
Are we on a timetable here on this, or should we get this all corrected first, or?
Mr. Engelbert?
I just want to address a few things. One, as far as the pre-existing contamination on the property that we currently own. In both agreements, the agreement and the amendment, the developer is obliged to follow the DNR procedures in terms of the VPLE and acquiring that and the conditions that come with that. So that is an encumbrance on the property that they will have to honor, and it is also a course of action which they will have to go through in order to do the construction on the property. The reason why that's in there is obviously they don't want to take responsibility for contamination on a site that exists before that they buy it. And that's the whole reason why we were going after this VPLE before we transferred the property, to give them that clean slate before the property was transferred. Now, when we went to the DNR closure committee for the VPLE, one of their conditions before they grant the VPLE is that the property has to be capped. Well, the property can't be capped unless the developer is on site doing the capping. So that is sort of a chicken and the egg scenario, and that's where we came up with this amendment to allow them to have site access. But if they have to be on the hook for pre-existing contamination, or frankly any developer, I don't think you're going to see a developer who is going to acquire this property that way.
Are you saying item 4 is okay the way it's written then?
I think so.
With the cap situation?
It's my opinion that it is.
Okay.
As far as the other items for paragraph 5, paragraph 8, Attorney Captain's right. Paragraph 8, the assessor determines the tax situation. I think they know that. As far as the timeline, we have a lot of moving pieces on this project. We have a lot of entities to keep happy. DNR, WEDC, the developer, their engineers, our engineers. I would encourage action on this item tonight.
Okay. Well, let's take up one at a time then. I'll start with item 8. And we need to use the language, the city attorney, by adding the assessor. Is that correct?
It would be to delete the words "in accordance with Wisconsin statute 70.11 parents 2, developers shall owe no property tax to the city or any other taxing authority."
Okay.
And
And?
so that would be deleted, and what it would say is if the property shall be deemed exempt, and then the rest of it is fine.
Okay. I'll make a motion as so.
There's a motion, a second to amend, as the attorney stated. This is
Hopefully Debbie can get that language.
just like this, Debbie. Cross that off and change it to if. Is there further discussion? See. This is just the amendment, yes. First amendment, yes. Okay. Seeing no other discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay, so
7, with Alderman Kruger abstaining.
abstaining. Mayor?
What's your, Alderman Sevenek, we'll
Thank
get
you.
that eventually.
Okay, so now we're on item 5 then. Paragraph 5, I should say. And do you want to go over your notes again?
About the middle of the paragraph, it says that the city is conveying the property by warranty deed to developer free and clear of all encumbrances. That free and clear of all encumbrances, and those words should be deleted, and that would be then consistent with our current development agreement language.
So move.
Is there a second? So motion, a second. Did you get this one too, Debbie? Then? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Benner.
Kevin Engelbert expressed concerns over the existing conditions. And that's a concern that I have, because what's existing is existing. And by doing this, does this remove their ability? Well, I think we're responsible for representing what's existing. And if this removes our right to them or for them to represent what's existing, is that in effect what would do and possibly create problems with this agreement?
Attorney Captain.
All I'm doing is adopting the language so that it says the exact same thing in the developer's agreement. I don't want anyone to say, ooh, why are there extra words in this amendment? Does that mean there's something different here? No, there's nothing different. So it should be exactly as it is contained. And this has to do with title. We're
Okay.
talking about the title provision, paragraph 5.
And you also said that there would be an encumbrance based upon the VPLE.
There would be something on the, which they would be aware of, that there'd be a cap requirement.
So if there was any kind of legal action on the existing condition, we would still be responsible to defend that position. Is that correct? If there is some contamination problems on the existing?
Attorney Captain.
That's not what this provision is about.
Yeah, okay.
That would be the next one,
Oh, okay.
paragraph 4.
All right, okay.
Yep.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Engelbert, do you want to explain what a VPLE is?
Yes, the VPLE is the DNR's, it's called a voluntary party liability exemption. And what that represents, if you are to achieve one for a property, is that DNR will take all liability and responsibility for anything previous to issuance of the VPLE for that property. It's transferable, so you can give it to developers. Developers like it. It gives them a clean slate. We like it because we like to give properties with clean slates over to developers. And so that's what that warrants. Now, what DNR said is that the property needs to be capped prior to issuance of a VPLE. And then what our plan would be to let the developer cap the property before they build the rest of the structures, go back to DNR for VPLE issuance, and get their input at that time as to issuing the VPLE, therefore taking the city off the hook for the environmental contamination as well as the developer. Another thing to note is under the original parameters of the purchase agreement we had with Realty Opus is that they escrowed $100,000 for environmental remediation on site. So far, we have eaten into $16,000 thereabouts of that fund. If something were to go haywire with capping the site, which I cannot imagine that it would, given the level of scrutiny on the site, there is potential that we could dip into those monies as well. But again, I don't think that's a likely occurrence. As far as item 5 goes for paragraph 5, I think there is language in that paragraph that refers to encumbrances specifically allowed in the development agreement, which is the language that Attorney Kaplan is talking about, and it gives. In the original developers agreement, it mentions the VPOE, standard easements, liens, and so forth on the property. So.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0 with Alderman Kruger abstaining.
Now we have the motion before us as amended. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0 with Alderman Kruger abstaining.
The only discussion I would have had was our beautiful map you provided us.
At one point, that was in color.
Is this to influence us on the copier?
The next item is the replacement of a high-speed copier. Alderman Sevenick?
Okay. Let me find my place here. Okay.
Oh, it's item 5 under
Yeah.
action items.
Okay, so we had our, well, anyways, I'll make the motion first. Replacement of a high-speed copier. Mayor has asked us, now I need your memo because we're going to need the dollar amount. Why was that not put on there?
It was on there.
No, I meant why wasn't it put on the motion?
Oh, I just had her put the same item as was on the previous agenda.
Okay. And, okay, I'll just make the motion for the copier, which cost will be for $14,966.33.
Is there a second? So motion and a second, discussion?
Yep.
Alderman Sevenick?
Yes. You want to go over your funding mechanism on this one a little for us?
What? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, where the funds would come from.
Exactly.
So what you're doing, what you're doing this evening is approving the purchase of it. In March, when we do the under/over resolutions, you'll see this come back as where those funds would come from. And that would likely be from the remaining funds for the administrative services position that's open at this point.
Okay. Well, and I spoke a little on this last time, and I have issues when we dig into those funds. But because you were upfront about it, and it sounds as though we truly need a need, I'll vote for this. But I do have issues when we start digging into salary funds and things like that.
I'm fine with that. If I could have my memo back, though, so it stays in my packet. Any other further discussion? Alderman Zelinski.
Thank you. Is there a real dire need for a new copier? Can't we just keep moving on with what we have and look to a brighter future where we're using technology instead of so much paper?
No, this copier replaces 2 copiers. So the copier that you have this evening, that you see, the stuff that's here, is the one that's on second floor. It's a medium speed color copier. And the reason that we used this copier is because the high speed copier on third floor, you would be missing about half of some of the lines of text. And it's getting to the point that it's fairly unreadable. Our maintenance agreement did almost double this year because it's very difficult to find parts for that machine. So what we're doing is we're combining 2 machines into one. And we had planned on doing, just replacing the third floor machine and leasing it. This will save us about $5,000 over the life of that lease. Plus, we'll be eliminating the second floor machine as we move to 100 Main.
When we do this maintenance cost, will the maintenance cost be the same as if we're leasing or
Yes.
owning the copying
Yes.
machine?
So we have a maintenance agreement on all of our copiers that covers the toner and the maintenance of the machine, any parts, and I forget what the price is, it's X per copy. And then we just buy the paper is what we would purchase.
So, with the $1,000 personal property tax over the life of the lease, how does that work with us being non-taxable?
Because we do not technically own the machine if we lease it. The bank
okay.
owns it, they have to pay personal property, which then they would pass along through to us. So that's an additional expense to us then as well.
I guess with that information, I agree we need a new copying machine, but I do not agree with taking out of personnel money. So that's the reason I will not be voting for this.
Alderman Kruger?
Yeah, just had a quick, do we own current copiers, or are they leased at the moment?
We have both.
We own both?
No, we have both.
Oh, you
Some
have
are
both,
leased
okay.
and some are owned. The former Administrative Services Director liked to lease copiers. Before that, we like to own copiers. I would prefer to own copiers just because of the cost savings for that interest.
Right, but the ones we're replacing, are they leased right now or owned?
I believe they're both owned. Is that correct? Okay, they're both nodding yes.
Okay. And is there any value to them to put up for public auction to, even if it's a couple $100 to offset the cost of the new copier? Was that in the plans also?
I'm trying to remember if those were one of the ones that we were going to. A couple of them were in such bad shape that we were happy to have them take them for us.
Okay.
These, I think we were keeping both of them, and we were going to look into if there was any residual value. Is that true?
Yeah, and one of them, there was a residual that one of the companies that we were working with said that there may be some inherent value to some of the pieces for it. However, they need to do that assessment after we signed on the dotted line, so to speak. They weren't going to give us those numbers until they did the full assessment.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 7-1.
Item K is ordinances and resolutions. The first item is Resolution 17, acknowledging the review of the City of Menasha 2016 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report under Administrative Code NR 208. Does anyone wish to make a motion? Alderman Sevenick?
Move for resolution R-1717.
There's a motion and a second. I just noticed there's a typo on the actual resolution. If you could fix that before we sign it. Oh. Okay. Alderman Kruger, I believe, correct? Second? Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Item L is appointments. The first is the reappointment of Jeffrey Nichols to the Board of Review. Is there a motion this evening? Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for the reappointment of Jeffrey Nichols.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. I'll be abstaining from this vote to
For the reappointment?
I lost my train of thought. I'll be abstaining. Mr. Nichols is my husband, and I'll like to avoid any appearances of conflict of interest.
There's a motion and a second. No further discussion. Don't go too far. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Taylor.
I just feel that spouses shouldn't be on these commissions with aldermen on this body. Their spouses shouldn't be on other appointments like this. Thank you.
We'll have a roll call vote then, please.
Motion carried on roll call 7-0 with Alderman Nichols abstaining.
Item 2 is the appointment of Tim Hoff to the Landmarks Commission. Is there a motion? Alderman Seven?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for Tim Hoff's appointment to the Landmarks Commission.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to add that I like to see that anybody that wants to serve the community, I really appreciate it. These aren't paying jobs, and we're not always the best decision makers up here, and that's why we have people in the community to give us their advice, and I appreciate that.
With that, I would like to add that we do have several openings on boards at the moment. So if anyone knows of anyone who would be interested in working with the community, I'd be happy to.
Can you
consider
announce
them.
some of those right now? People do watch and they do want to get involved.
I'm not sure exactly what they are. I can put a memo in the next packet, though.
Are they posted online?
They are not at the moment. They would say vacant within the directory, though.
Can you post those online?
I can, but I'll put them in the next packet, and then that'll be online as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Seeing no further discussion, could we have, we don't need a roll call. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item N is public comments on any matter that was on the agenda this evening. Does anyone wish to make a comment? Mr. Jacobson, I knew you couldn't resist.
Tim Jacobson, 732 Paris Street again. Good debate. That's what it's all about. And the downtown is doing much better. I was on the crew when we were literally chasing tumbleweed down Main Street. So the downtown has grown, gotten better, gotten more respect around the whole metropolitan area. But you have to remember that I've been through these debates many, many, many times. And I've seen them over and over and over. And they're the same debates, just different subjects. And I want to remind people that the downtown was ignited by the marina. And James did a wonderful presentation at the 10-year anniversary, I think it was a 10-year anniversary, of what all developed out of that marina. And that same debate was being done on that marina, about that marina, and why we shouldn't have it, or shouldn't pay for it, and shouldn't do this, and shouldn't do that. But those are the things that ignite everything else that goes on. I don't want to own that bridge any more than any of you. I don't want to pay for the maintenance and operations any more than any of you. I don't own a boat, never will own a boat, so if that bridge goes up and down once, I don't care. You don't build a municipal golf course, so you're not helping me at all. But I remember, too, when the Taco Street Bridge collapsed, and the state didn't have money for that. And Senator Ellis and Representative Crawford made sure they found it in a very, very fast time frame. And I think that's where your debate needs to go about these bridges and their operations. I mean, the state's been giving these bridges to the municipalities for years if they rebuild them. But not all of those bridges are operating drawbridges over federal government canals. And they're not part of the promotion of the Wisconsin waterways. So your debate and your fight, your battle is with those people. And if Senator Ellis was still in Madison, you can bet your shorts that we would not be paying for any operations or any maintenance on those drawbridges. And if that's a challenge that we can put to our state reps now, so be it. The other thing, I don't know if my alderman was trying to mock me or not. I forgot more about construction than you'll ever know, okay?
Tim, we
I know-
shouldn't have debates with,
No, I know, I was offended. I know they're not going to stop in the middle of building that bridge. And I think I deserve an apology. And I don't know who would be responsible for having that be done, but I was offended by that comment. And if you need to explain yourself to me in private, that's fine, but don't do that to me again. All right? Thank you.
Dan Zelinski, 647 Paris Street. Thank you for the bridge decision. I know there was a lot of debate here. One thing troubles me with this debate on the bridge and budgets. I've been hearing this from too many aldermen now. There's deals being made, and I think that stinks. And someone's up here telling me there's deals being made. I'd like to know what those deals are, because there's no way an alderman should be making a deal with the mayor for his vote. And that's what I'm getting at, that I think that's happening. Because I'm hearing about deals being made. That stinks.
you're
And
implying that someone is
also,
dealing
I
with
don't know.
me.
They're telling me
That is-
deals are being made.
That is not true.
I hope not.
And I would hope that you don't spread rumors like that.
I just don't like deals
Okay.
being made. That's all I hear from them. Deals are being made. And also on this copying machine, personnel money being used there. I was an alderman sitting up here once, and I heard there was a lively debate about this, about personnel money being used to buy items. And I was told I didn't need a resolution at that point because this will never happen again. And now it's happening again. There was 3 aldermen that were up here, and they heard that. There was a very lively debate. And I heard from staff and stuff, and I think from Mr. Mayor, he said this will never happen again. You don't need a resolution for that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else this evening? Seeing no one else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.